This is about a goodbye." Maria didn't say a word. She just stared down the hallway. Where, 10 minutes ago? Mr. Rick had stopped yelling for the first time in 3 days because she'd hugged him. And that's why Brittany was firing her. If you've ever been treated badly for doing something good, stick around to the end of this story. Because what happened next changed everything forever. Let me tell you how it all began. Mr. Richard Rick Harrison was 67 years old, 20 years ago. He'd been one of the most respected architects in the city. He designed buildings that still grace the skyline. But at 47, something started to change. First, it was the voices. Whispers that only he could hear. Then came the paranoia. He believed he was being followed, that he was being watched, that there were conspiracies against him. The diagnosis was paranoid schizophrenia, a sentence that changed everything. His wife couldn't handle it. She left when he got worse. His son, Brian, who was 32 at the time, had to take over everything: the family business, the construction company his father had built, and a father who was drifting further and further from reality every day. Brian did what he could. He hired the best psychiatrists, the best nurses, the best caregivers, but nothing really worked. Mr. Rick kept having episodes, entire days screaming, nights without sleep, moments of clarity becoming increasingly rare. And Brian, trapped between guilt and responsibility, married Brittany, an elegant woman, well-educated, but who saw Mr. Rick as a burden, an obstacle, an embarrassment to be hidden away. Maria came to that house 8 months ago, not as a caregiver, as a housekeeper. 47 years old, a widow, with a secret she never told in the job interview. Her younger brother had suffered from schizophrenia for 15 years. Maria cared for him. She learned to read his signals, to anticipate his crises, to calm him when no one else could. When her brother died 5 years ago, Maria felt like a part of herself had gone with him. But she also kept something, knowledge that no degree can give, the wisdom of someone who loved a person with a different mind. The first day Maria saw Mr. Rick, something stirred inside her. He was in the garden, sitting alone, staring into nothing, muttering things that no one understood. And Maria, without anyone asking, went over to him, sat down beside him, and started to hum. A classic Sinatra tune, the same one that calmed her brother. Mr. Rick stopped muttering, turned his head, and for a second, his eyes focused, as if something in that music had brought him back. No one saw that moment, no one noticed, but Maria did, and from that day on, whenever she could, she found a way to be near Mr. Rick. It wasn't part of her job. Brittany had made it very clear that her function was to clean. Nothing more. But Maria couldn't help it. She saw her brother in those lost eyes. She saw someone who needed more than medication, who needed human connection. The first month passed. Maria noticed that Mr. Rick had fewer episodes when she was around. It wasn't a coincidence. She had learned with her brother that people with schizophrenia respond to consistency, to routines, to familiar voices, to familiar sounds. So Maria started creating her own system. Every morning, before Brittany woke up, she would go into Mr. Rick's room. She would speak to him softly. She would play the same music. She would show him an old family photo, a photo where Mr. Rick appeared young, with Brian as a child in his arms, and she would always say the same thing. "Good morning, Mr. Rick. Today is going to be a good day. You're an architect. You designed beautiful buildings, and your son, Brian, loves you very much." She didn't know if he understood, but something in those words anchored him, brought him, even for a moment, back to the world. Brian started to notice something strange. His father was calmer. The nighttime screams diminished. The crises were less frequent. The psychiatrist had no explanation. The medications were the same. Nothing had changed. Except something that no one saw. A housekeeper who, without being paid, was doing what the best specialists hadn't been able to achieve. But if you're feeling something with this story, if something in your chest is stirring, consider showing your support with a super thanks. That golden heart you see below isn't just a button. It's your way of saying, keep telling these stories, and now comes what no one expected. Brittany found the notebook. Maria had a small notebook. She kept it in her purse. There she wrote down everything about Mr. Rick, what things upset him, what sounds calmed him, what words to use and which to avoid. It was the same system she had used with her brother. A map of Mr. Rick's mind that she had built during months of observation. Brittany found it one day while searching the servants' quarters. She had no right to do it. But Brittany believed she had a right to everything in that house. She opened the notebook. Read the notes. And her face transformed into something Maria had never seen before. Pure rage. Who do you think you are? The words came out like poison. Your job is to clean, not meddle with my father-in-law, Maria tried to explain. I just want to help, ma'am. Help? You? A maid? Brittany grabbed the notebook and threw it in the trash. If I ever see you near Mr. Rick again, you're fired on the spot. Maria lowered her gaze, nodded, and went to clean the bathroom. But that night, Mr. Rick had the worst episode in months. He screamed until 3 in the morning. No one could calm him down. Not the nurses, not the emergency medications, not Brittany, who locked herself in her room with earplugs. Only Brian stayed awake, listening to his father scream things that made no sense, begging someone to leave him alone, fighting against invisible enemies. And Brian, the successful businessman, the CEO of a multi-million-dollar construction company, sat in the hallway with tears in his eyes, because all the money in the world couldn't give his father peace. The next morning, Maria arrived early. As always, she saw the bags under Brian's eyes. She saw the mess in Mr. Rick's room. She saw the empty medicine bottles, and without anyone seeing her, she retrieved her notebook from the trash. Brittany hadn't bothered to empty it. Maria cleaned it, stored it in a safer place, and made a decision. She would continue to care for Mr. Rick, even though she was fired, even though Brittany humiliated her, because Maria knew something that Brittany would never understand. Some people need more than just money and medication. They need someone to see them as human beings, not as burdens, not as problems, but as beings who deserve love. And that was exactly what Maria gave Mr. Harrison. Unconditional love, without expectations, without an expiration date. Maria remembered the sleepless nights with her own brother, the times she had to hold him while he screamed things that made no sense, the mornings when he didn't even recognize her, and the afternoons, those precious afternoons, when his eyes would clear and he'd say her name, Maria. It had always been Maria, the only one who didn't leave, the only one who endured, the only one who saw him as a person until the very end. And now with Mr. Harrison, she had a second chance, not to save him, because paranoid schizophrenia can't be cured, but to give him peace, to make the good days more than the bad, so that when he passed, whenever that might be, he'd know someone loved him. That was all Maria wanted. No money, no recognition, not a better job, just to give Mr. Harrison what her brother had, someone who would be there, no matter what, until the end. Another week passed. Mr. Harrison's episodes continued to diminish. Maria had found a way to care for him without Brittany seeing. Early in the morning, before anyone woke up, during Brittany's naps, in the moments when Mom went shopping, it was a dangerous game, but Maria was willing to play it. Because every time she saw Mr. Harrison calm down with her music, with her words, with her presence, she felt like her brother was smiling from somewhere, that everything she had learned caring for him hadn't been in vain. that the pain of losing him was transforming into something useful, into something good, into something that was saving another person. Brian, meanwhile, was confused. His father was improving, but no one knew why. The psychiatrist adjusted the medications, thinking he had found the right dose. Brittany took the credit, saying she had hired better nurses, and Maria kept cleaning in silence, without saying anything, without asking for recognition, just doing what her heart told her to do. One day, Brian found something. He was looking for some documents in the study when he saw a piece of paper on the floor, a torn sheet, with handwriting he didn't recognize. It said things about his father, that a classic Sinatra tune calmed him, that mentioning his career as an architect anchored him, that showing him old photos brought him back. Brian read those notes with a racing heart. This wasn't the work of a psychiatrist. It was too personal, too specific, too full of love. Who had written this, he didn't know, but he kept the sheet and started to observe, like a detective in his own house, because something didn't add up. His father was improving, but none of the treatments had changed. The medications were the same, the nurses were the same. So what was different? Brian spent the next 3 days observing, watching, listening, taking mental notes of every little detail, because that was why he had turned his father's construction company into an empire. He saw what others didn't see, and now he was seeing something in his own house that no one else noticed. What Brian discovered left him speechless. He noticed that his father was calmer in the mornings, right after Maria finished cleaning the hallway near his room. He noticed that Mr. Harrison sometimes hummed a tune, always the same one, a Sinatra song that Brian didn't remember ever playing. He noticed that his father looked towards the service door, like he was waiting for someone. And one day, finally, he saw it. It was 6 in the morning. Brian had gotten up early because he had an important meeting. He walked down the stairs in silence and heard something that made him stop. A soft voice, feminine, coming from his father's room. "Good morning, Mr. Harrison. Today is going to be a good day. You're an architect. You designed beautiful buildings, and your son Brian loves you very much." Brian approached silently. The door was ajar, and what he saw took his breath away. Maria, the housekeeper, was sitting next to his father. She had an old photo in her hands, a photo that Brian recognized, him and his father, 20 years ago, when he was still the brilliant man that Brian adored. Mr. Harrison looked at the photo, and for the first time in a long time, his eyes had clarity. "That's me," Mr. Harrison said. His voice was weak, but coherent. "Yes, Mr. Harrison. That's you. And that little boy is your son, Brian. He loves you very much." Mr. Harrison nodded. "Brian." He said the name like he was tasting it, like he was remembering it. Brian, in the hallway, had to cover his mouth to keep from making a sound. Tears streamed down his cheeks. His father had said his name, something that hadn't happened in months, and he had done it with the housekeeper. Not with the expensive psychiatrists, not with the specialized nurses, with Maria, the woman who cleaned the bathrooms. Brian wanted to enter. He wanted to hug his father. He wanted to thank Maria, but something stopped him. If he went in, he would break the moment. And besides, he needed to think. He needed to understand how it was possible that a housekeeper had achieved what no one else had. That afternoon, Brian did something he had never done. He looked up information about Maria. Her employee file only had the basics: name, age, marital status. But Brian wanted to know more. He called the agency that had hired her. And what he discovered changed everything. Maria had cared for her brother with schizophrenia for 15 years, until he died 5 years ago. She had no degrees. She had no certifications, but she had something that no course can teach: experience, love, understanding of a disease that most people don't understand. Brian hung up the phone with a heavy heart. All this time, he had someone in his house who could help his father. And he didn't know it, but someone did know it, and that someone had decided to keep it a secret. If you've made it this far, it's because this story is touching you. So let me ask you a question. What would you have done in Brian's place, knowing that your wife humiliated the only person who can calm your father? Don't answer me now. Wait to see what happened, because what's coming next is something no one expected. Brittany had noticed something. Her father-in-law, Mr. Harrison, was too calm, and it bothered her. Not because she wanted him to suffer, but because if Mr. Harrison got better, Brian would never agree to send him to a nursing home. And Brittany had been wanting that for years. She wanted the house all to herself. She didn't want to have to see that old man yelling. She wanted a normal life, without the burden of someone with a mental illness. So she started watching, observing, looking for the reason behind his improvement, and it didn't take her long to find it. One morning, Brittany woke up earlier than usual. She had insomnia. She went down to the kitchen for a glass of water, and she heard music, very soft, coming from Mr. Harrison's room. As she approached the door, it was ajar, and what she saw filled her with fury. Maria, the housekeeper, sitting on Mr. Harrison's bed, holding his hand, talking to him in a low voice, and Mr. Harrison, calm, almost smiling. Something Brittany hadn't seen in years. Rage consumed her. But she didn't go in. Not yet. First, she was going to plan her revenge. A week passed. Brittany gathered evidence. Photos of Maria entering the room. Notes about the times she saw her near Mr. Harrison. All to build a case against her. Not before Brian, her husband. That would be too direct. Brittany wanted to humiliate her. She wanted to destroy her. She wanted Maria to leave that house ashamed, with no chance to defend herself. The plan was simple. Wait for the perfect moment, catch her in the act, and kick her out in front of witnesses. That moment came on a Thursday afternoon. Mr. Harrison had had a difficult day. The voices were loud. The paranoia consumed him. He was screaming that there were people in the walls, that they were going to hurt him, that he had to escape. The nurses couldn't control him. Brittany had locked herself in her room, and Brian was gone. He had a business meeting he couldn't cancel. Maria heard the screams from the kitchen, and something inside her broke with each one. She had heard those screams before. Not the same ones, but similar. Her brother screamed like that. When the voices were too loud, when the ghosts that only he saw became too real, when the fear consumed him from the inside, and he had no way to escape. Maria remembered those nights, the nights she held her brother while he trembled, the nights she hummed to him until he calmed down, the nights she didn't sleep either, because if she closed her eyes, he would be alone. And Mr. Harrison was alone now. The nurses were exhausted. Brittany was locked away with earplugs in, and Brian was gone. Mr. Harrison was completely alone, fighting demons that no one else could see, terrified, with no one to hold him, no one to tell him that it was going to be okay. Maria looked at her hands, the same hands that had held her brother for 15 years, the same hands that had hugged him until the end, and she knew what she had to do. Every scream broke her heart, because she knew exactly how Mr. Harrison felt, trapped in a mind that betrayed him, fighting enemies that only he could see, terrified, alone, misunderstood. Maria looked towards the staircase. Brittany was locked away. The nurses were exhausted. No one would see her. No one would stop her. She went upstairs. She entered Mr. Harrison's room, and what she did next was what condemned her. She hugged him. Simply hugged him. Mr. Harrison was in the corner of the room, trembling, screaming, his hands over his ears, trying to block out voices that no one else heard. Maria knelt in front of him. She didn't say anything at first. She just hugged him, tight, like she hugged her brother when he had episodes. And she started to hum, a classic Sinatra tune, soft, constant, an anchor in the midst of chaos. Mr. Harrison kept screaming, but less loudly. He kept trembling, but less violently. And after 10 minutes, something incredible happened. He calmed down. The scream stopped. The trembling lessened. And Mr. Harrison, for the first time in 3 days, breathed easily. Maria let go of him little by little. She helped him sit on the bed. She gave him water. She stroked his hair. And when everything seemed to be okay, she heard a voice behind her. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" Brittany was in the doorway. Her face was a mask of fury. Her eyes gleamed with something Maria recognized instantly. Hate. Pure. Undiluted. Maria stood up slowly. She didn't let go of Mr. Harrison's hand. "Ma'am, he was having an episode, and I just wanted... I don't care." Brittany entered the room like a storm. "I warned you. I told you not to go near him. Ma'am, please, he doesn't need anything from you." Brittany grabbed her arm. Hard, so hard, that Maria winced in pain. "You are the housekeeper. You're the one who cleans the toilets, the one who scrubs the floors. You're not a doctor, you're not a nurse, you're nobody." Each word was a blow. Maria received them in silence, because she had learned a long time ago that defending herself only made things worse. With people like Brittany, there was no possible defense. You just had to endure and wait. Mr. Harrison in the bed started to get agitated again. Brittany's screams were upsetting him. Maria saw it. Brittany didn't. Or she didn't care. "You know what I'm going to do?" Brittany let go of Maria's arm and pushed her backwards. "I'm going to call the cops. I'm going to say you were stealing, that I found you in my father-in-law's room taking things." Maria's eyes widened. "That's a lie." "Who are they going to believe?" Brittany smiled, a cold smile, cruel. "Me, the owner's wife? Or you, the housekeeper that no one knows?" Maria felt the fear rise in her chest, but not for herself, for Mr. Harrison. If they kicked her out, if they sent her to jail, who was going to take care of him? Who was going to calm him when the voices were too loud? Who was going to hum Sinatra until he stopped trembling? "Ma'am, please." Maria clasped her hands. "Not for me, for him. Mr. Harrison needs to be put in a nursing home." Brittany spat the words. "That's what he needs. To be far away from here, where he doesn't bother anyone, where I don't have to see him." And at that moment, Maria understood. Brittany didn't hate Maria. Brittany hated Mr. Harrison. She hated his illness. She hated having to live with it. She hated that her husband wouldn't send him away. Maria was just an obstacle. Something stood between Brittany and her goal, getting rid of the old man. Mr. Harrison started to groan, hands over his ears again. Brittany's shouting had triggered him. Once more. "Look what you're doing." Brittany pointed at Mr. Harrison with disgust. "He can't even control himself. He's an animal." Maria felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Rage. "No." Maria took a step toward Brittany. "He is not an animal. He's a human being. A father. An architect who designed buildings that you could never imagine. A man who deserves respect, not your disdain." Brittany recoiled. No one talked to her like that. Ever. "How dare you?" "I dare because someone has to say it." Maria didn't stop. "You see him as a burden. But I see a person. A person who's suffering, who's afraid, who just needs someone to treat him like a human." Brittany raised her hand. Maria didn't flinch. She expected the blow. But Brittany stopped because she heard something. Footsteps. On the staircase. Someone was coming. "You're fired." Brittany lowered her hand. "You have 1 hour to leave. And if you say anything to anyone, I'll destroy you." Maria nodded, not because she agreed, but because she knew arguing was useless. She approached Mr. Harrison one last time, touched his cheek. "You're going to be all right, Mr. Harrison. Someone else will take care of you." And she left the room, head held high, because even though she'd been humiliated, even though she'd been threatened, she didn't regret a thing. She had done the right thing, and that was all that mattered. But Maria didn't know something. Someone had heard everything, every word, every insult, every threat. Brian was in the hallway. He'd arrived from his meeting 20 minutes ago. He'd walked up the stairs quietly. And he'd heard his wife humiliate the only person who could calm his father. If this is touching your heart, consider supporting us with super thanks. That golden button you see below is your way of saying this story deserves to be told. And now comes the unexpected. Brian didn't say anything, didn't enter the room, didn't confront Brittany. Not yet. First, he needed to think. He needed to process what he'd heard. His wife, the woman he'd been married to for 15 years, had called his father an animal, had threatened to falsely accuse an employee of theft, had said she wanted to send Mr. Harrison to a nursing home. Brian walked down the stairs silently, locked himself in his study, and for the first time in a long time, he wept. He wept for his father, for the years he wasn't present, for the times he let Brittany make decisions about his care, for not seeing what was happening in his own home. He wept for Maria, a housekeeper who did more for his father than all the specialists combined, a woman who risked her job, her freedom, to care for someone who wasn't even her family. And he wept for himself, for the man he'd become, a successful CEO, a respected millionaire, but an absent son, a blind husband, a coward. Outside, Maria was packing her things. She didn't have much. A small suitcase, some clothes, and the notebook. The notebook that Brittany had thrown in the trash and that Maria had recovered. Mr. Harrison's mind map. Maria looked at it one last time. So many notes, so many observations, everything she'd learned in 8 months. And now it would be useless because she wouldn't be there to use it. She thought about leaving the notebook. Maybe someone else would find it. Maybe someone else would use it to help Mr. Harrison. But no, she knew Brittany too well. She would throw it away or burn it. Nothing that could help Mr. Harrison would survive in that house. Maria put the notebook in her suitcase, put on her coat, and walked toward the door. But before she reached it, she heard something. A voice, her name. "Maria." She stopped. It couldn't be. "Maria." She heard it again. It was coming from the 2nd floor, from Mr. Harrison's room. Maria looked toward the stairs. Her heart was pounding. That voice. It was Mr. Harrison's voice, but it wasn't a scream. It wasn't an incoherent murmur. It was her name. Clear. Coherent. As if something in him had awakened. Maria dropped her suitcase, ran up the stairs. She didn't care if Brittany saw her. She didn't care if she was thrown out by force. Mr. Harrison had called her. For the first time in 8 months, he'd said a name that wasn't one of his ghosts. He'd said her name. She reached the room, breathless. Mr. Harrison was sitting on the bed, his eyes clear, lucid, looking toward the door, waiting for her. "Maria," he said it again, and smiled. A smile that Maria had never seen before. A smile of recognition, of gratitude, of connection. "Mr. Harrison," Maria approached him. Tears streamed down her cheeks. "He recognizes me." "Sinatra." Mr. Harrison nodded slowly. "You play Sinatra." Maria brought her hands to her mouth. She couldn't believe it. He recognized her. He knew who she was. He knew what she did for him. All this time, a part of him had been there, listening, registering, saving. Yes, Maria sat next to him. I play Sinatra. For you. Mr. Harrison took her hand. His grip was weak, but present. Don't go. It was almost a whisper, but Maria heard it. And her heart broke because she had to leave, because Brittany had fired her, because she had no choice. Mr. Harrison, Please. Mr. Harrison's eyes filled with tears. The voices are ugly, but you silence them. Maria couldn't contain herself. She hugged him, like she had hugged him an hour ago when he was in crisis. But this time it was different. This time he was present. This time he knew who was hugging him. And this time, someone else saw it. Brian was at the door. He'd come up when he heard his father's voice. A voice he hadn't heard clearly in months, and what he saw left him speechless. His father, lucid, hugging the housekeeper, saying her name, asking her not to leave. Maria looked up, saw Brian, and the fear returned. Mr. Harrison, Don't say anything. Brian entered the room, knelt next to the bed, next to his father, next to Maria. Dad. Mr. Harrison turned his head, looked at his son, and something in his eyes changed. Brian. He said it with the same clarity he had said Maria's name. My son. Brian sobbed. He couldn't help it. His father recognized him. After months of empty stares and of shouting and of crippling paranoia, his father saw him. He knew who he was. Dad, I'm here. I know. Mr. Harrison smiled, a faint, almost childlike smile. You're always busy, but I know you love me. Brian lowered his head. Tears streamed down onto the crisp white sheets. Forgive me, Dad. Forgive me for not being more present, for leaving you alone, for not taking care of you the way I should have. Mr. Harrison gently stroked Brian's hair, just like he did when Brian was a little boy. You're not alone. She takes care of me. He gestured weakly towards Maria. She puts on Sinatra. She shows me pictures. She brings me back. Brian looked at Maria, the housekeeper, the woman his wife Brittany had so often demeaned, the woman who had done what no one else could. Bring his father back, even if, just for a moment, even if only temporarily, she had done it. Thank you. It was all Brian could manage to say. Maria shook her head. You don't have to thank me. I do it because I want to. Because I need to. Because he reminds me of someone I lost. Brian understood. The agency had told him about her brother. But hearing it from her was different. It was more real, more profound. Your brother? Yeah. Maria glanced at Mr. Harrison. He had schizophrenia for 15 years. I took care of him until he died, and when I saw Mr. Harrison, I saw my brother in his eyes. I couldn't not do something. Brian nodded slowly. I want you to stay. Maria looked at him, surprised. But Brittany. It doesn't matter what Brittany wants anymore. Brian stood up. His face had changed. There was no more hesitation, no more fear, only determination. This is my house, my father, my decision. And my decision is that you stay. Maria didn't know what to say, but before she could respond, they heard footsteps in the hallway. Brittany appeared in the doorway. Her face was a mask of confusion and simmering rage. Brian, what are you doing here? Why is she still here? Brian turned to face his wife, and what Brittany saw in his eyes made her recoil. We need to talk now, Brian. I was just... Now. Brian's voice left no room for argument. Brittany glared at Maria. She looked at Mr. Harrison, and for the first time, she felt a prickle of fear. Something had shifted, something she couldn't control. She stomped downstairs behind her husband, and what happened in the study changed everything, forever. Brian closed the study door firmly. He didn't sit down. He didn't offer Brittany a seat. He stood facing her, arms crossed, a formidable figure. "I heard everything." The words fell like stones and cold and hard. Brittany paled. "Brian, let me explain." "No." Brian raised a hand, cutting her off. "There's nothing to explain. I heard how you spoke to her. I heard you threaten Maria. I heard you say my father was an animal, that you wanted to send him to a nursing home." Brittany tried to interject, but Brian wouldn't let her. 15 years. His voice trembled with barely suppressed emotion. 15 years married, and I never really knew you. I never knew what you were capable of. Brian, your father drives me insane. The screaming, the episodes, the constant fear. My father is sick. It's not his fault. And you treat him like he's a plague, like he's something to be hidden away. Brittany began to cry, crocodile tears. But Brian wasn't moved. He had seen his father cry too many times, in fear and confusion. Brittany's tears meant nothing compared to that. "What do you want me to do?" Brittany sobbed. "Change. Accept him. Pretend I'm not terrified. I'm not asking you to pretend." Brian moved closer to her, his gaze unwavering. "I'm asking you to be human. And if you can't, then you have no place in this house." Brittany stared at him and incredulous. "You're throwing me out, sir?" "Me? For a housekeeper? I'm throwing you out for who you are." Brian swung the study door open, a person incapable of compassion, incapable of seeing beyond your own comfort. My father deserves more. Maria deserves more. I deserve more. Brittany stood frozen, paralyzed by shock. This couldn't be happening. Not to her. Not over a sick old man and a maid. Brian, think about what you're doing. I'm your wife. We have 15 years together. And in those 15 years, I never saw you treat my father like a person. Brian pointed towards the staircase. You can stay tonight. Tomorrow. I want your things out of this house. Brittany wanted to scream. She wanted to fight. She wanted to destroy something and anything. But she saw the unwavering determination in Brian's eyes. And she knew. She had lost. She had spent years manipulating, controlling, deciding who stayed and who went. But she had made one fatal mistake. She had underestimated the love of a son for his father. She had underestimated what happens when a man finally opens his eyes. Without saying another word, Brittany turned and stomped up the stairs. She locked herself in the guest room, and Brian, for the first time in a long time, felt like he could breathe. He went upstairs to his father's room. Maria was still there, sitting beside Mr. Harrison, humming a familiar Sinatra tune. Mr. Harrison's eyes were closed, but he wasn't asleep. He was listening, and for the first time in months, his face was at peace. Brian stood in the doorway, watching the scene unfold. A humble housekeeper, doing what he, the son, had been unable to do, bringing peace to his father, with something as simple as a melody. And in that moment, Brian made a decision. Maria wouldn't just stay. Maria would be recognized, valued, treated as the extraordinary person she was. That night, Brian didn't sleep. He sat in his study, staring at old photos from when his father was still himself, the brilliant architect, the man who used to take him to see his buildings, the father who taught him to see beauty in lines and angles. Brian was only 10 years old when his father showed him his first completed project, an office building downtown. Look, Brian Ebert, his father, had pointed upwards, his eyes shining with pride. I created that. Out of nothing. Just with my ideas, and my own 2 hands. Brian had stared at the building in awe. Then, everything was possible. Then, his father could create anything. Then the world was a place where dreams came true. 20 years later, that man was gone. The voices had taken him away. The paranoia had consumed him. And Brian had been so busy building his own empire that he hadn't seen his father crumbling, He had hired the best specialists. He had paid for the best treatments. He had done everything that money could buy. But money couldn't do what Maria did. Money couldn't offer a comforting embrace. It couldn't hum a soothing melody. It couldn't patiently show photos with love. Money could only buy services. He couldn't buy hearts. And Maria had a heart that couldn't be bought, that couldn't be rented. It simply gave, without asking for anything in return. The next day, things shifted. Brittany left early, without saying goodbye, without looking back. Brian didn't stop her. He knew it was for the best, for everyone. That morning, he called Maria into his study. Maria entered nervously. She still couldn't quite believe what had happened. She still half expected it all to be a dream, that Brittany would reappear and really fire her. "Please, sit down." Brian gestured to a chair. Maria perched on the edge, ready to bolt if necessary. "I want to make you a proposition." Brian opened a folder. "I've been thinking all night. My father, he needs you, not as a housekeeper, as a caretaker." Maria's eyes widened. "Mr. Brian, I don't have any formal qualifications. I don't care about qualifications." Brian closed the folder with a snap. "What you do, no qualification can teach. You have something that can't be studied. Experience, patience, love." Maria didn't know what to say. "I want to triple your salary." Brian pulled out a check. "And I want you to move into the house, into your own room. Not the servants' quarters, but one of the rooms on the second floor, which is near my father." Maria felt tears welling up. "Sir, that's too much." "It's not enough." Brian handed her the check. "It will never be enough to pay for what you do. But it's a start." Maria glanced at the check. The amount was more than she had earned in a year. "I can't accept this." "You can, and you will." Brian smiled. For the first time in days. A genuine smile. "My father. He called you by your name. He hasn't done that with anyone in months. You achieved something that the best specialists couldn't. You deserve this, and more." Maria wept, not from sadness, from relief, from joy, from the feeling that, finally, someone saw her worth. "Thank you, Mr. Brian." "Don't call me Mr. Brian took her hand. "Call me Brian. You're part of this family now." And so, Maria stopped being the maid. She became something more. Not just a caretaker, but someone indispensable. Someone loved. Someone who had found her place. The following months were different. Mr. Harrison still had episodes. Schizophrenia doesn't just disappear. It can't be cured. It can only be managed. But with Maria around, the episodes were less frequent, less intense, less terrifying. Maria used her notebook every day, noting new patterns, new triggers, new ways to calm him down. And Mr. Harrison, although he was still battling his inner demons, had moments of lucidity more often. Moments where he recognized Brian, where he said Maria's name, where he smiled like the man he once was. Brian started spending more time at home, delegating responsibilities at the company, hiring someone to handle the meetings he used to attend, because he had understood something important. Money can't buy time, and the time he had with his father was limited. One day, Brian found Maria and his father in the garden. Mr. Harrison was sitting on a bench, Maria beside him. They had a photo album open, and Mr. Harrison was pointing at an image. "I designed this building." His voice was weak but clear. "It was my first big project." Brian approached quietly. He didn't want to interrupt. "It's beautiful, Mr. Harrison." Maria smiled at him. "You must have been very talented." "I was." Mr. Harrison nodded. "But I don't remember how it was done anymore. The voices took it all away." Maria took his hand. "The voices didn't take everything away. They took some things. But you're still here. Your memories are still here. Your love for Brian is still here." Mr. Harrison looked towards where Brian was standing, and for a moment, his eyes were completely clear. "My son." Brian knelt in front of his father. "I'm here, Dad. You're a good man." "Brian." Mr. Harrison touched his cheek. "Better than me." "Dad, you were." "No." Mr. Harrison shook his head. "I got lost. But you found your way. And you found Maria." He looked at the woman who was taking care of him. "She's an angel. An angel who wears a uniform." Brian and Maria looked at each other and smiled, because Mr. Harrison was right. Sometimes angels don't have wings. They have housekeeper uniforms. They have notebooks full of notes. They hum a classic Sinatra tune in the mornings. And they have a heart so big that it can calm even the most tortured minds. If you've made it this far, I want you to know something. This story is a reminder that a person's worth isn't measured by their title, nor by their salary, nor by their social position. It's measured by their actions, by their compassion, by their ability to see humanity where others only see problems. Maria had nothing. She was a 47-year-old widow, a housekeeper, a woman who cleaned toilets and scrubbed floors, but she had something that Brittany, with all her money and status, would never have. A heart that knew how to love, and that, in the end, was what made the difference. Brittany disappeared from their lives. She went to live with a sister in another city. She never came back to the house. She never asked about Mr. Harrison again. It was as if she had never existed. And perhaps, in some way, she never did. Because people who don't know how to love are like ghosts. They pass through life without leaving a mark, without being remembered, without mattering. But Maria would always be remembered. By Brian, by Mr. Harrison, by all who hear this story, because she did what few do. She loved without expecting anything in return, and that love, in the end, changed everything. A year later, Brian did something that surprised everyone. He created a foundation. He called it the Maria Foundation. Its purpose was simple: to train caretakers for people with mental illnesses, not with academic degrees, not with cold certifications, but with what Maria had taught him: patience, observation, love. The foundation offered free courses, teaching the techniques that Maria had developed, the anchors, the music, the photos, the routines, everything she had learned taking care of her brother and Mr. Harrison. Maria was the first instructor. At first, she refused. "I'm not a teacher, Mr. Brian." But Brian insisted. "You have something that can't be taught in a university. You have the experience of someone who loved, and that's worth more than any diploma." Maria accepted. And in the first year, the foundation trained 200 people, 200 caretakers, who learned to see those with mental illness as people, not as burdens, not as problems, but as human beings who deserve dignity. Mr. Harrison lived 3 more years. 3 years of partial lucidity, of good moments and difficult moments, of Sinatra in the mornings and old photos in the evenings. Maria was with him until the end, holding his hand, humming his favorite tune, reminding him who he was. Mr. Harrison's last day was different. Maria knew it from the moment she saw him that morning. There was something in his eyes, a peace she hadn't seen before, a clarity that seemed to come from another place. Mr. Harrison looked at her when she entered the room, and he smiled. "Today's the day, Maria." Maria felt her heart clench. "Don't say that, Mr. Harrison. It's true." Mr. Harrison took her hand. "The voices are gone. For the first time in 20 years, there's silence. Maria called Brian. She told him to come. That it was important. Brian arrived in 15 minutes. He'd never driven so fast. When he entered the room, he saw his father sitting in the bed. His eyes clear, completely lucid, like he hadn't seen in years. "Dad." Brian sat down beside him. "Son." Mr. Harrison smiled. "Do you remember the building? The first one I took you to see?" Brian nodded. Tears were already streaming down his cheeks. "Of course I remember, Dad. It was beautiful." Mr. Harrison looked out the window. "I created a lot of things in my life, but the best thing I created was you." Brian sobbed. "Dad, don't go." "We all go, son." Mr. Harrison stroked his hair. "But some of us are lucky enough to leave, loved, and I'm leaving loved, by you, and by Maria." He looked at the woman who had cared for him. "Thank you." It was a whisper, but Maria heard it. "You don't have to thank me, Mr. Harrison." "Yes, I do." Mr. Harrison closed his eyes. "You gave me peace in the middle of the storm. You gave me Sinatra in the middle of the noise. You gave me your hand when everyone else let go." Maria cried. She couldn't help it. "You gave me something too." Mr. Harrison opened his eyes. "What did I give you?" "A reason, ma'am, to keep going." Maria smiled at him through her tears. "When my brother died, I thought I had no purpose anymore. But you showed me that I did. That I could use everything I learned to help someone else. That the pain of losing my brother wasn't in vain." Mr. Harrison nodded. Then we both saved each other. He closed his eyes again and sighed. A long sigh. Deep. Full of peace. When he died, he did so in peace, with a smile on his lips. And the last thing he said was a name. Maria. Brian was there when it happened. He saw his father go, calmly, without fear, without pain. And he knew that was thanks to Maria. Thanks to a housekeeper who did what no one else could, give peace to a man who had lived years in torment. After the funeral, Brian asked Maria to stay, not as a caretaker. There was no one to take care of anymore, but as family. "You're part of us now," Brian told her. "This house is your house. It always will be." Maria accepted, not because she needed a place to live, but because she had found something she had been searching for 5 years, since her brother died. A purpose, a family, a home, and something more. Years later, the Maria Foundation became one of the most important in the country. It trained thousands of caretakers. It helped thousands of families with mentally ill loved ones. Maria traveled through cities, teaching what she knew, telling the story of her brother, telling the story of Mr. Harrison, showing that love can do what science cannot. And in every conference, and in every course, and in every talk, Maria started the same way. "I was a housekeeper. I cleaned bathrooms, I scrubbed floors. No one looked at me, Anna. No one saw me. But I had something that can't be bought with money, a heart that knew how to love. And that, in the end, was what made the difference." People listened to her in silence, and some cried, others smiled. Everyone learned. Because Maria didn't teach techniques, she taught humanity, and that was exactly what the world needed. Brian never remarried. He said he didn't need another wife. He had Maria, not as a partner, but as family, like the sister he never had, like the person who had given him back his father. Even if it was for a short time, even if it was temporarily. She had given him something that no money could buy, moments of lucidity, smiles of recognition, words of love, in the middle of the chaos. And for that, Brian spent every day grateful. Grateful that Maria had come to his house. Grateful that Brittany had humiliated her. Because if Brittany hadn't humiliated her, Brian never would have discovered the truth, never would have kicked out his wife, never would have recognized Maria, and his father would have died alone. without peace, without love, without anyone to hum his Sinatra. Sometimes the worst things that happen to us lead us to the best. Sometimes humiliation is the path to redemption. Sometimes losing a wife is gaining a family. And that's exactly what happened here. And so ends this story. Not with a perfect happy ending, because life isn't perfect. Mr. Harrison died. That's sad. But he died loved, cared for, in peace. And that, in a world full of pain, is the closest thing to a miracle that exists. Brittany, for her part, never found what she was looking for. She moved to another city. She got married again and again and again. 3 marriages in 10 years. All ended the same, because Brittany never learned the lesson, never understood that love can't be bought, that family isn't a hindrance, that old age isn't a shame, that mental illness isn't a sin. Brittany kept running, from one life to another, from one husband to another, looking for something she would never find, because what she was looking for wasn't outside, it was inside, and her heart was empty. Maria, on the other hand, found everything she needed, in a house that wasn't hers, with a family that wasn't blood, caring for someone who wasn't her brother, but who had given her the same thing as her brother: purpose, love, a place in the world. And that, in the end, is all any of us needs. A place to belong, someone to love, and the certainty that our life has meaning. Maria found it, and you can find it too. No matter who you are, no matter where you come from, no matter what job you have, what truly matters is your heart. And if your heart knows how to love, everything is possible. Everything. If this story touched your heart, if you felt something while listening, then it has served its purpose. Because stories like this, they aren't told for mere entertainment. They're told to remember that heroes don't always wear capes. You see, sometimes they wear uniforms. Maybe they're a nurse, maybe they're a teacher. Sometimes they clean bathrooms, and sometimes they're invisible to the world. But they are the ones who really matter, the ones who make the difference, the ones who quietly change lives. Thank you for listening until the very end. Thank you for giving your time. To Maria and Mr. Rick Harrison, thank you for believing in stories like this. Thank you for remembering that we all deserve love, regardless of our mental state, regardless of our age, regardless of our illness. We all deserve someone to hold us when we're afraid, to embrace us, someone to hum a familiar tune, maybe a bit of Sinatra when the voices get too loud, someone to show us pictures when we forget who we are. We all deserve a Maria in our lives, a kind, steadfast friend, and perhaps, just perhaps, we can all be a Maria for someone else. You don't need a fancy title. You don't need piles of money. You don't need any kind of power or influence. You just need a heart that knows how to love unconditionally. And that you already have. Deep down, we all have it within us. We just have to decide to use it consciously. And thank you for remembering that love, even when it comes from the most unexpected hands, always wins, always, without exception. See you in the next story.